All right. Receipts. Receipts. Now, we as realtors keep our receipts, especially for tax time, because we are independent entities. This one is for a tattoo. I cannot claim that. I could use Rockstar for Rockstar Realtor marketing. It just isn't so. But there's a meme going around. It's not so much as a meme, but a marketing strategy going around by realtors that I just wanted to address. Seen it pop up a couple of times, and the numbers on it, are they true?
Rockstar Realtor.
So you might have seen this meme that says, this is the cost of waiting. Here you have the 2020 single detached price and the 2025 single detached price and the price increase between those two. And then you have your rent paid for 6 years. I think initially when somebody did it, they thought 2020 to 2025 was 5 years. Nope, it's six. And you have the price of a single detached home going from 394 to 505,000. And then you have the rent paid for 6 years as 108,000. Now, I've seen these with appropriate numbers. I'm addressing this one specifically because these numbers are dubious at best. I don't even know where these came from. And luckily, we have access to things like Stats Canada, and we as realtors from our professional organizations get a nice little summary every month of how the market did, including what the average prices were per category, like single detached homes, semi-detached homes, apartment condominiums, etc. So this is really important because as a realtor, you really want to know your market. You really want to know your area. Ones we get are for Edmonton area, and then it breaks it down for the areas sort of outside and surrounding Edmonton. Luckily, last week we did a video already where we adjusted the average prices of single detached homes for inflation. Funny thing is we don't have the average price for 2026 yet. January, at the time of this recording, is not over, so we don't have January year to date or month over month stats. So there is no average price for 2026. We can only go up to 2025. And if we go 2021 to 2025, there we go. We have a nice little 5 year average. And we, again, already did this last time. So you can see that adjusted to $2025 in 2021, the average price was $474, went up to $499. And again, this is for a single detached home in Edmonton CMA. You have that dip from 2022 to 2023, and then 2024 and 2025, where it was 535 and increasing to 570. And adjusted for inflation, I actually expect it to be a little bit less this year. Let's take a look at what the actual adjusted price increase was. So this is between 2021 and 2025, and all we do here is subtract. The actual dollar adjusted price increase for average homes in Edmonton CMA was 15,971. So not really the $108,000 that the other receipt claims. Now, for adjusted rent paid, I've got the little chart here. I basically took from Stats Canada the average price of a 2-bedroom apartment in the Edmonton CMA and adjusted it again for $2025. Now, you can see rent always goes up, it doesn't go down, and this is the monthly amount times 12 months. Pretty basic back of your napkin math. And what we end up getting is your adjusted rent paid of $91,920. So your total loss was $107,000, not over 200,000 like this initially claimed. Now, the important thing here to note is that obviously, if you're putting money away on rent, you're not getting anything in return aside from having shelter in that month that you paid for rent. And don't get me wrong, that's still important. What this exercise is designed to do is create some urgency, obviously, around purchasing a house and showing how much money is going to rent instead of equity. The interesting thing that I wanted to show was, you might be wondering whether or not, if you waited a year when interest rates were really high, does this negate the amount that you paid on rent? So, what I've done here is I've taken the average mortgage rate, and again, this came from Stats Canada. There are other sites that, for example, you can apply for a mortgage on. These ones come from CMHC, and some of those sites have the average 5-year fixed closed rate as different than this, but going from the CMHC is a very good bet in terms of like this is what the actual numbers really are. You can see the mortgage rates increased 2021 to 2022 from an average on a 5-year fixed closed 3.3 to about 3.44. 2023 and 2024 we had the big increases, and then we had it drop in 2025. And so you can see I've broken it down by your monthly payment, what you will pay over the course of the year, and what you will pay over the 5 years, your interest and principal. So I am just going to extract here between the time when mortgage rates were a little bit lower and the time when mortgage rates were a little bit higher. So the cost of waiting until 2023 from 2022, if the mortgage rates were low and then the mortgage rates got high, was about 19,992, so about 20 grand. And the way we did this was I took the amount that you're paying strictly to interest, because we want to show that the principal is you're still getting something out of it. And we subtracted from that interest amount the amount that you would have paid on average rent. Now, why did I do this? Because you're not getting equity out of paying rent or out of paying interest. So we want to say that those two things are the same. So there's an opportunity cost about paying rent instead of paying equity. And in that, if you're paying interest, you can assume that that's wasted money just as much as it would have gone to rent. So that's why we subtracted the rent from interest, because there is an overlapping portion where your money just gets thrown away. So the additional interest over the rent, or the additional rent over the interest, is the amount that we're concerned about is being additionally wasted. I want to show you from waiting until 2025 from 2024, when amounts dropped from 6.31 to 5.31. There was still a cost of waiting associated with this of 16,360 over the 5-year term of that mortgage. So the interesting thing is, even if your mortgage rate here is higher, you are still wasting more money paying rent than you are just paying the higher interest on the higher mortgage. Waiting till 2025 to 2024 is mortgage rates went down, but of course along with that the price of houses went up. I think you would be hard pressed to find any time in sort of recent history, and I'll say maybe in the last 20 years, where you could actually say, oh, I waited a year or I waited 2 years and rented and waited for interest rates to go down, and somehow that saved you money. I think this is a misconception. So when we had high interest rates, I think there was a lot of people that didn't want to get into the market because they felt when interest rates lowered, that was a better time to get a mortgage. It turns out if you were paying an average amount of rent on an average 2-bedroom apartment, that amount, by waiting, it wouldn't have made a difference anyways. You actually still would have lost sort of equity or thrown away money on rent. It didn't make it any cheaper by waiting a year or two. Now, if my little case study actually proves that you're losing money by paying rent, then why did I do this video anyways? First of all, I like the idea that realtors are transparent with their clients and prospective customers. I don't like the idea of necessarily misrepresenting something to build that urgency or for a marketing point of view. And for the most part, I think consumers have a pretty good idea if they're having the wool pulled over their eyes. The other thing is, I wanted to talk maybe just a little bit about why this strategy is employed. This strategy is employed to make you feel like you are missing that opportunity and there is an urgency to go and get a house like immediately. It is true. If you are paying rent, you are missing out on having something to show for it in the future. And generally, if we just look at the average prices increasing, even if we adjust that dollar value, that intrinsic value of your home on an average basis, and we covered this in the last video of like, would you actually lose money at any time if you sold your house? Generally, that price of your real estate as an investment continues to increase over time. I think that this is a little bit of a disingenuous ad campaign because I don't feel like there is a large portion of people that are going, I was putting off buying a house for A or B reason. I think it's more so like, hey, if you could get a house, you would go and get one. Like, you wouldn't rent in a lot of reasons if you couldn't go and get a house. Like, if you couldn't pass the CMHC stress test or you couldn't get a mortgage or whatever else or come up with the down payment, I don't think it's fair to say that there's a lot of people resting on their laurels and like aren't urgent about buying a house if they could afford one. Now, of course, there's exception to this cases. There may be people where purchasing real estate doesn't make sense for. Maybe you move around a lot. Maybe you get relocated often because of your work. Maybe you just like the idea of being a little bit more transient than fixed in a position, and that's okay. That's if that's your lifestyle, like, nobody should be admonishing you because that's your choice if that's what your values are. But I just wanted to take a look at this because this is one of those tiny little marketing strategies that kind of gets copy and pasted time and time again. And I thought it would be good to take a look at under a magnifying glass. Next video, we're going to talk about what we can expect from the market in 2026. I hope I'll see you again. If you or anyone you know needs to buy or sell a house in the Edmonton area, contact me, the Rockstar Realtor. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to these videos. If you or anyone you know needs to buy or sell a house in the Edmonton area, contact me, the Rockstar Realtor. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to these videos.